Hello and welcome to another episode of BH Now. Today's show we have Krista, who's the CEO of MYTIME Young Carers. Now they are based in Dorset, but they're on a massive mission to make change for young carers. So welcome to the show, Krista.
Thank you.
I would love for you to tell our audience all about MYTIME Young Carers in case they've not heard of them before.
Okay. As you said, we're a Dorset-based charity and we work with children who are providing care for someone or more than one someone in their family. So it might be that they're supporting somebody who's got ill health, who uses a wheelchair, who struggles with their mental health, who misuses drugs and alcohol, got loads and loads of different reasons. And MYTIME essentially provides support both to schools so that schools can have the tools and skills they need to be able to support and identify young carers. Identify and support. And then also we do interventions with young carers directly. So we have a support program called Making Memories. That is all about giving young carers a break from their caring role, giving them time to do fun things that they might not normally get the chance to do with other young carers, so that they're part of a community, part of a network. And then we also support young carers that are kind of transitioning from school into college into work through our employability program. And that again is just providing them with the skills and tools that they need to take those really important next steps. Because lots of the national research that's just come out in the Alan Milburn report shows that actually young carers are significantly more likely to end up not in training, education and employment. And when they do end up there, they don't go back. And so there's a big piece of work to be done around ensuring that young carers have the opportunity and the chance to be everything they want to be, and that their caring role doesn't actually stop that.
So I read that, is it estimated there's over 1 million young carers in the UK?
Yeah.
But many of those are actually quite invisible.
Absolutely. So the school census this year, 56% of schools said they didn't have any young carers. Now, absolutely no, that's not true. But we also see that, the estimation for the number of young carers is 1 million. But actually, through the school census, I think it was about 90,000 young carers were identified this year. And that is because for some families, it's just what they do. They don't know any different. They provide care because it's needed and that's their job. And they've never heard the term young carer. They've never been told what that means or that there is support even available.
So getting up in the morning and them having to help their family member, they just think that's part of the morning process. Other people are probably doing it as it's just built in to their morning.
And it's interesting because a lot of the younger young carers think exactly that.
Yeah.
And then it's when young carers reach secondary school and they start becoming teenagers that they often then start to realise that their life looks different.
They've
to
got
that
responsibilities.
Of their friends. And so that can be really difficult. But that's why it's so important that we make people aware that young carers exist.
Yeah.
And yes, schools are important, but so is healthcare professionals, because they're ones that are actually dealing with lots of illness within families, etc., and providing support, but also things like community groups like rugby, football, cricket, because they're the places that we want young people to be, because they're really protective factors around the child, around the family. They're good for your mental health, good for your physical health.
Yeah.
But actually for young carers, they might present as someone that's unreliable. They don't show up to training every week because something's happened at home. And so they get dropped from the team. So there's a big piece of work that MYTIME and other young carer organisations need to do to help raise awareness of the fact that these young people are doing what they're doing, and there are significantly more of them than we actually realise.
So your journey has been quite incredible because you were a teacher.
Yeah.
Head teacher?
I was an assistant principal and geography teacher.
Okay, can you tell us a bit about that journey?
Yeah, so I love teaching, loved it. I started teaching up in Loughborough, then I moved down to London, and then I moved down to Bournemouth. And teaching was amazing. Like, it was so much fun. Working with teenagers, I enjoy that. I enjoy that age group when they're figuring out who they want to be, and one week they're someone and the next week they're something else, and they're quite kind of discovering themselves. But actually, I'd got to the point where I was frustrated within the education system. I didn't think that education was serving young people in the way that it needed to. And so I had the opportunity to get involved with the charity, just advising them, because it was a tiny, tiny organisation when I joined. And I was like, I've never heard of young carers. I'm a teacher, it's been in the classroom 13 years. How have I never heard of young carers?
Wow.
And then that was how it started for me, was that understanding that actually so many children would have passed through my classroom.
Yeah.
And I would have misdiagnosed them as perhaps lazy or like not being as interested in their education as they should be, and doled out the punishments that went alongside
Just
that.
getting to school late.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The way that you interpret that behaviour is that this is a young person that's just not that interested.
Yeah.
What's actually going on is they are cognitively and emotionally maxed out, like loaded. And actually me dribbling on about whether they've done their homework on meanders probably feels really unimportant if they've spent the night in hospital with a parent.
Yeah.
And so that's where this captured my imagination. And then also just realising that growing up, one of my best friends would have been a young carer. We didn't know that. We didn't use that language.
No.
And then I think I got really struck by the injustice of all of this, and the realisation that actually if schools, teachers, the community, health professionals were aware that young carers existed, there were some really, really important tweaks, low-cost solutions that could make a massive difference.
Yeah.
And so that's where we are today.
So the charity was tiny when you first started, and now you've got an office locally, you've got a big team, you've got all these programs running, haven't you? So can you tell us a bit about that?
Yeah, so when I started, it was me and 2 members of staff who both worked part-time, and I was part-time. And then yesterday we had our first huddle of the year. So we have a get-together every quarter, bring the whole team together. And actually there are now 29 of us, which...
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah, I looked out across the room and I thought, that's a lot of faces. And so we have been on a really big journey, but it's been because the work that we've done in schools has helped us identify young carers. And actually the charity in the early days was supporting about 75 young carers. We're now supporting nearly 3,000.
That's amazing.
And so it's one of those things where the more work we do, the more young carers we find, the more support is needed. But the piece that's really interesting for me, alongside the fact that we're hoping that the impact we're having is positive on young carers' lives and their families, is the learning that comes out of that and how we can use that learning across the country as a sector. Because I often talk about this, but at the moment there is a postcode lottery of support for young carers. Where you live depends on what you get. And again, that isn't fair. That's not okay. So we're hoping that the learning we're doing at MYTIME can be shared with other organisations. We're hoping we can learn from them and actually raise the benchmark for all young carers across the country. Because it'll have a massively positive impact, not only on their lives, but the wider community as well.
So just last week you were in London and you held an event where you were able to have, you had Vicky Slade MP there and you had all these different organisations involved. But that was really exciting, but can you tell us a bit about that?
Sure. So we were very, very lucky to receive some funding from the Forvis Mazars Foundation, and they funded us to essentially run a project called the Equity for Young Carers Project. And what it involved was going out to other young carer organisations across the UK and asking them what they were doing that was really, really cool, that was making a difference in their area. And through that process, we had lots of different people apply. We drop a shortlist, and Romsey Young Carers and Newcastle Carers were at the top of the list, because Romsey do this incredible work with Southampton University around working with occupational therapists, and the impact that work was having is incredible. It's intensive work and it happens on a small scale, but the impact of it is enormous. And then Newcastle Carers, they're running an amazing project called I Care, which is all about young carers only having to tell their story once. Because what we find is that young carers will need to tell their story to their teacher. They then need to tell that story to the local authority. They then need to tell that story to the healthcare professionals and everyone in their lives. Whereas I Care allows all of that data to be captured and shared with all the right people.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's really cool. And something that, I shared it with Dorset Council last week, something I'm hoping we can have a conversation about, because it would be amazing if we could all get onto the same hymn sheet.
That makes so much sense. Instead of just doing your thing and but bringing all these organisations together around the UK and sharing information, as in what works for them, what are they doing? And there's so much to learn. Now, so 2 reports have come out, and these are on your website. So there's 2 reports that have come out, which are detailed reports as well. And I had the privilege of being at the event last week, which was amazing, and listening to everyone have their say and these charities talking about what works for them. And there must be so many that can share and actually just make a better UK, a better chance for these young carers to be recognised and to put the right tools in place. But the fact that they're doing different things as well, I found that really interesting. So the fact that they're working with occupational therapists and the local university, and they've got this tool as well. Just think what these other charities must be doing. There must be so much to learn.
Oh my God. I mean, even just reading the people that applied, you know, you're like, wow, they've got this mentoring scheme and they're doing this and they're doing that. And I think the issue that we've got as a sector is funding, right? And the inconsistency of funding. So most young carer organisations are partially funded by local authorities. But that is a very small pot of money, and it just doesn't leave the space or the room to be able to deliver all of these amazing things. But what we need to do is build up the bank of evidence of this works here because, this works there because then as a collective we can advocate for better funding, more reliable funding. Like, you know, I'm talking to CEOs of other young care organisations who are having to close their doors, who are having to say, like, we can't take any more young carers. That's not fair.
That's not fair at all.
But it's down to funding.
These young people are our future. They're our future. Why should they miss out on life, on what's available, because they have that responsibility? And
it's infuriating.
Oh, it is infuriating. I can feel it as a mum of 3. And, you know, and seeing their friends. And I spoke to you before because, you know, my girls, I recognise that they do have friends who are young carers, and they wouldn't have recognised it as well. But that mental load for me is sometimes I find that I will get to the office in a morning and I'll be so relieved. And I'll sit there and just sit there in silence, and I'll just be like, nobody speak to me. Just need to have a coffee. And I just need to, because I've had a morning of getting up and I've had the girls to deal with. So I've had lunch boxes. Where's this? Where's that? Right. I need to go and do the school run. I've got to sit in traffic. By the time I get to the office, I'm like, I need to take time out. And that's before my day has even started. These kids are, you know, they go into school and they're expected to be straight on it. You know, why haven't you got where's your tie? Where's this? Where's your homework? Where's this? Right, you need to be doing this. You need to be in this time. It is huge. And the responsibility that they have to carry with them all day. But why should that's not fair.
No.
That is the case for these young carers. And it is hard fundraising. But what you've done and brought this together, but you've gone, right, I'm open to working with other organisations, other CEOs of charities. Let's work together to get the best outcome for these young people. That's massive.
I think we had an invite earlier this year to Windsor Palace to a reception that was being hosted by the King and Queen. And the King came and spoke to us and spoke to the young carers we took. He was amazing. But he said to me and some of the other CEOs from other young care organisations, you are all working together, aren't you? And we said, yeah, you know, where we can. And he said, no, you must. And he talked about, I can't remember which 2 organisations it was. I think it was Age UK and another organisation. He brought them together, 2 national charities. And that was his big project. And he was very passionate about it.
Wow.
And the impact that they've then been able to go on and have working together has been huge. And so, I mean, if the King tells you, you've got to do it, right?
Do it.
You've got to do as you're told. But I do think there is so much more to be hopeful for if we can work together. And it is pleasing in the last couple of years, we have seen a step change. Like the Department for Education are really stepping up the sort of expectations for schools around young carers.
Good.
Yesterday, I was looking at the new health and the care plan that's just come out. There is a much more strengthened kind of focus on carers. But you're absolutely right. These are children.
Yes.
And they shouldn't be carrying that weight of responsibility at that age. And the challenge that always worries me, and something I heard one of the young carers from my time say, was, how do we stop young carers becoming the cared for of the future?
Yeah.
And he's absolutely right,
Yeah.
in that if you are a young person who is carrying a huge cognitive and emotional load constantly,
Yeah.
stress, fear, responsibility, worry, actually that is going to have long-term implications
Oh
on
my-
your own health. It is.
Absolutely.
So we've got to find a way to support those young people.
Yeah.
I'd love to say that young carers shouldn't be caring.
Yeah.
But for that to happen, the entire social care system would need a complete overhaul, and it would cost billions.
Yeah.
Realistically, it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
But what we do need to do is we need to stop young people who are doing inappropriate levels of caring by
Yeah.
providing support in,
Yeah.
but also just give them the tools and the support that they need, and make sure they're seen.
Yeah.
Because like you say, that
Yeah.
conversation about a tie, you've forgotten your tie.
Yeah.
It breaks down the trust between the school and the young person.
Yeah.
Because the young person thinks, well, yeah, I've forgotten my tie, but it's because I've got all of this going on.
Yeah.
And the school labels the child as being someone who's forgetful or
Yes.
lazy. And actually, that's not conducive to a successful education on either side.
Yes.
And so there's a lot around just really raising awareness of young people that are caring, but also like what it really actually means.
Yes.
Because I think there is a, young carer makes sense, but you need a bit more than that to be able to understand it fully.
But that true understanding of what a young carer really is, but going deeper, how will this affect them in the future? How is this affecting them now? And being really open to understanding the whole approach to a young carer.
Yeah.
They have that responsibility, but like my kids are forever hanging out with their friends and here, there and everywhere. But these young carers may not be able to do that because they know that they do have that responsibility.
Yeah.
So there is that, are they then isolated from their friendship groups?
Yeah.
And then how is that going to have an effect on their mental health?
Yeah. I
feel so passionate about this, having kids myself, but it's
but the links that you've just drawn, you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
So young carers often talk about one of the biggest things that comes out of coming to my time is the other young carers that they make friends with.
Yeah.
Because it's other young people that get it.
Yeah.
And there's a group of young people I've been working with because I'm doing a PhD at Bournemouth Uni looking at young carers in education. And they were talking about the fact that actually having young carer friends means that they don't have to explain themselves.
Yeah.
If they have a change of plans last minute because the person they care for needs them, other young carers will go, I got you.
Yeah.
And that's enough. Whereas actually, it was really heartbreaking listening to them talk about how sometimes they feel that they have to lie to other young people, how they have to keep other young people at a distance.
Yeah.
Because obviously what's going on in those families can also be very private. It can be something that young people don't want to share. If there is a young teenage boy who is helping his mum with showering and toileting, that's not something that he would want shared.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so they do isolate themselves. So that's why other young carer friends are really, really important.
But that wouldn't happen if they didn't have charities like MYTIME Young Carers, where you put things on and they can come together and do this kind of stuff. And I guess it's no different for for us, we'll have our gym groups and we can, or we'll have our
networking groups
or our mum group, like whatever that is. And actually, so there has to be this particular young carers group in order for them to feel like they are part of society and they're included as well.
Well, it's one of the bits of advice we give to schools. And again, it seems like such a simple thing. And I think people underestimate the impact of it, but is set up a young carer group at your school.
And are a lot of schools getting involved?
I'm thrilled. It's been really interesting because when we first started, we had to find schools that were kind of the willing and the ones that would get on the bus with us and kind of explore the process. And in truth, the schools in Bournemouth and Dorset and Christchurch and Poole, they've helped us build the quality of the programme that we deliver now
really
by
pleased.
sharing their knowledge, their learning. And actually, that programme that we're working on is now going national, and we're starting to work in other parts of the country. because having a really well-trained young carer champion in each school that sets up those young carer groups, that makes sure those young carers are seen within the data, within the interventions of school, all of the different ways, just makes a huge difference. It's the same as every school has a Senko. So actually, I believe every school should have a young carer champion. And the young carer champion and Senko do need to talk, because lots of young carers also have their own SEN needs as well. And so there's lots of things that overlap. But yeah, there are simple things that can make big differences. And as I say, young carers group, get them together. It's really good for the year 7s to see the year 10 young carers. And actually, one of the big pieces of work we've done is around transitions. So helping young carers transition from primary to secondary school, introducing them to the young carer champion at the secondary before they get there, time with the young carers from secondary.
That is huge.
Because it helps, right?
That is huge.
Because the cognitive load that you must experience as a year 7, going from primary where you have one teacher, one classroom, to having 14 different teachers in 14 different classrooms in all the different bits of the building.
Well, my youngest, it's a middle school system. So my youngest is about to move into secondary school, but that's year 9. But she is already stressed. Like, she is stressed now. And it has been since they start doing the transition days. You go over for half a day and then you do a full day. But she is stressed. And it's a case of, she might not have been put in a class with her friends. And she suddenly realised, actually, I'm going to be the youngest out of that whole school. It's scary. So she's already stressed about that. But she doesn't have responsibilities. I do everything for her. So she has, but she's stressed, she's anxious.
It's changed, right?
It's
changed.
But to have that, to be able to speak to the older young carers and have that relationship and know, actually, I'm going to have
Some
a community
support
here.
Community. It's honestly, it's the biggest impact of our work that I totally underestimated. So I think when we started the Making Memories program, employability, it's like, employability is really important. They come out with a CV and they come out with interview skills and they've done their colour profiles and all of these things. And I totally underestimated the impact of the community.
Can you talk to us about the employability side as well?
So what we saw very early days was a piece of research that said 49% of young adult carers were not in education, training or employment. And that boggles my mind, because these are young people who are emotionally intelligent, incredibly organised, hardworking, responsible, all the things that employers say that they want. But there is obviously something not working at that transitional point. So we set up the employability program, and it's an 8-week course that young carers come and do, and they learn all the kind of key things that you would expect. They get one-to-one support alongside it from the team. They have access to all sorts of days in the workplace, an online group that they meet up where they learn financial skills and all sorts of things.
That alone is huge.
Oh, it is so important.
Yeah.
But it's because young carers often don't have an adult in their life to take them through that journey. And I know, when I went to uni, my dad helped me write my UCAS statement. That's, he was an English teacher. So, when you're like, Dad, cast your eyes on that, have I spelt the thing right? That was just my normal. But actually, for young carers, they might have a parent they're caring for who's unable to do that, or has never been through further education themselves. Or it might be that if it's a sibling that they're caring for, mum or dad or both are so busy dealing and coping and looking after their sibling that there just isn't that much time left or that much space. So that's what that program does, is it gives them the tools, but it gives them that one-to-one support. And I'm really excited because this year we're hosting a summit at Bournemouth University in November, where we've got, I think it's 160 young carers coming that are kind of 14 through 18 that are all going to be looking for work experience. And so we're inviting, and if anybody listening would like to get involved, you are very welcome, employers from across the locality, across BCP, across Dorset, to come and meet young carers and hopefully be able to provide them with some valuable work experience, because that is a really important step. You cannot be what you can't see. And really interesting, we did a survey with the young carers in the build up to planning this event, and they want to be really cool stuff, architects and vets and photographers, and just the breadth of things that they wanted to do. So we have to help them on their way to get there.
Yeah.
It cannot be okay that 49% of those young people will not get anything at all.
Yeah.
That is not right.
So what stops them from, what are the biggest obstacles for them?
Lots of things. So I think probably like your daughter feels about going up to secondary, it's change. Will these people in this business understand me? Will they understand if I'm late because I was looking at, will they believe me? Finance is always a challenge. So travel, that kind of thing.
So is the employability summit a chance to educate
Yes.
educate employers on, actually, this is what a young carer's day will look like, a week will look like, and it will be a case of, you have to understand they have all these skills, but they may, and I guess it's also teaching them to be open to, you can tell us, and you can, and if you need to leave earlier because you've got responsibilities, that's okay.
Exactly that. It will be, so throughout the course of the summit, the young carers will follow one programme and the employers that attend will follow another. And you're right, it is all about helping employers understand the challenges that young carers might face, the tweaks that they could make that would alleviate those challenges. But also it's for employers to kind of have the opportunity to take some of the fear away. And we often hear that about the fact that actually just work experience is too hard, it's too difficult, it's complicated, I can't do it here. Am I allowed to do this, that, and the other? So we're hoping that actually it's beneficial for lots of young people, obviously, particularly young carers for me. But in the sense, we're going to talk them through like how to set up really successful work experience placements, how they can be really beneficial to companies and organisations, and just get people talking.
And do you know what? It's really interesting because I've had 2 out of 3 daughters now apply for work experience. It is not an easy process. It's actually really stressful, and it's all done through a platform. There's a lot of employers that aren't so much open for work experience. It's a really tough gig. And when you do, you don't get that much information. So you kind of turn up, and I know for one case, it was a big firm and they got put in a room to just, because they were like, well, you've got work experience, if you can just like write some things and do some paperwork. I won't name anyone, but actually there was no, they didn't find out about that person, about that. So they could have been a young carer. And that, I mean, for this person, this was quite daunting. They were just kind of, and in the end, they were like, what's the point in this work experience? But I've seen it over and over again, having 2 daughters go through work experience, that there's not enough support already for work experience. So these young carers who know that they might have they will have some anxiety already, but the fact they're thinking, oh no, I've got this on my mind and I do need to leave. Like, how, this is huge. Like, this summit is huge. Can more businesses get involved?
Please. I mean, we are looking for everyone and anyone that has something to offer. And it doesn't need to be your traditional work experience placement of 2 weeks. It could be a day in the workplace. It could be an online conversation with the older young carers to talk about the work that you do. Because I honestly could not believe this any more firmly. You cannot be what you can't see. And I also know from having done this work for a while now that young carers are always kind of blown away by the support that they receive. And so by having more employers in the room from a real breadth of backgrounds, I know it will mean a lot to them. I know it will mean a lot that the community is coming out and supporting them
and being willing to learn and meet them. So it's one day. It's a one-day event. What time?
Bournemouth University. I want to say it's the first week of November, and I've forgotten the exact date. Sorry.
We can put those in the show notes.
It will start at 9 and it will finish at 4.
So one day out of their year, they can dedicate to actually meeting these young carers who have got an amazing skill set, who are really proactive thinkers, forward thinkers.
Good in a crisis.
Good in a crisis. So there's all of that. So they just need to just give up just one day. It's not giving up, it's actually dedicating one day to being open, to being educated and learning more about young carers and meeting these amazing young people who already
Well, I know
look
lots
after
of
somebody else.
businesses have volunteering days, don't they, for their staff?
Yeah.
So if you've got some and you would like to use one, we'd love to have you.
Amazing. How can they go onto MYTIME
Yeah, if you go
Young
onto the
Carers
MyTime Young
website?
Carers website
Right.
and you can sign up there, it's on the homepage. I'm really excited about it because I've been to some meetings recently where we keep talking about youth unemployment and we keep talking about the challenges that young people have in accessing employment and the challenges that employers have in terms of young people. And then we go away from those meetings and say, oh, we'll meet again in a few months and see if anything's happened. Things don't spontaneously just happen.
No.
Like, this isn't going to solve itself.
Yeah.
Unless we put some energy and some commitment and some passion into it.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited about the summit. I'm really grateful to all of the employers that have already signed up.
Yeah.
And I'm excited to see what we can do that day.
What we'll do as well is on the show notes that we put on our YouTube channel and our podcast, I'm happy to mention those businesses that have been
Brilliant.
involved as well, and we can link to them so they can have some publicity because they are backing this, because this is huge. If you want to read the research as well that has been done, I really urge you to, because it is on the MyTime Young Carers website, and these 2 reports are on there now. So you just need to have a look at the Equity Young Carers project. Now, Krista is on a huge mission. I've never met somebody so passionate, and it's wild, and I love it, because you have gone from a small charity to something you have built. Like yesterday, you said you've got all these members of staff and you can believe it, but everyone is working hard to make a difference to young people. And now it's not just about the local area, it's about not having a postcode lottery and making it fair for all young carers. So you've been an absolute powerhouse in making a movement and a change. It's really nice to see organizations involved, as in businesses involved, and willing to fund and help with research, MPs involved in helping to make a change in legislation, schools to go, actually,
we need to do this.
Because you cannot think you have not got a young carer in your school. It's mad. And you're right that Senko and young carers should be, the school should be working together on this. There's so much more to do, isn't there?
This is what I couldn't believe when I first got involved with young carers. It's like, have we just forgotten about these children?
Yeah.
And that's genuinely what it feels like. It feels like policy and legislation just overlooked them.
Yeah.
It was overlooked in so many different ways.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, I've never had a problem being noisy, but being noisy about something that I care about is easy. And I think things are beginning to change, but it's going to take this sustained pressure, sustained energy, but also the belief that it can be better.
Yeah.
So I think that's the thing. Like, MyTime is not about going up and making a fuss without a solution.
Yeah.
And I think that always helps. And I think we read a lot in the press right now about how negative the UK is and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And it's dull, right? In that all the time that people are spending complaining, they could be spending doing and making things better.
Yeah.
And that's how we're trying to live our lives.
And I think a big thing is people being organisation, businesses, schools, teachers, everyone. If you've never been a young carer or a carer, or for us, we're in that sandwich generation where you're looking after your parents. A lot of people are looking after. So if you just look at that, if you are there looking after your pet and you're trying to juggle work with your responsibilities at home, with having to look after your parents as well, just think for a second what that would feel like if you were a young person and you just want to be a kid. Think about what my childhood was great. I was out playing and having loads of fun. I've got all these fun stories, but imagine if you're that young carer and you cannot be that child and you cannot do that. And I think the biggest thing as well is education. Everyone being up for being educated and what a young carer looks like, their responsibility and what life looks like for them. And I think that is huge. But yeah, I could talk to you all day about this, but thank you so much. So I would urge everyone to have a look at MyTime Young Carers website.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Do have a look. There's loads and loads going on. Do get in touch with Krista. Krista is a complete powerhouse who's wanting to make change across the UK for young carers. So do take a look at all the work and the research that they're doing. and all their programs that they run. If you do want to get involved, do contact Krista, do contact the team, and get involved. So
Thank you so much for having me.
thank you so much, Krista.
No problem.